I was able to watch The Flash, and I was super excited for this movie. It had the Flashpoint storyline, and it had Michael Keaton returning. It was canon to the DCEU, which means Zod was in it. And I was super excited for this movie. So was it as good as I was hoping? Well, let's start off with everything I liked about this movie. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. And for starters, again, the Flashpoint storyline. It is super fun to see the Flashpoint storyline in the DCEU, which meaning it connects all the way back to Man of Steel, where the DCEU started. And yeah, this movie tackles this story and makes this movie feel like it's actually connected to the DCEU. And that's what DCEU's been struggling with lately, is trying to make the movies feel connected. And this movie did it perfectly. This movie felt connected. And with the Flashpoint storyline, again, the Flashpoint storyline is like one of my favorite stories for a comic book ever. It is a really good story, and I feel like this movie tackled it really well into live action, and it worked amazingly. Another thing is the comedy. Like, the comedy is really good. Like, most of it comes from Ezra Miller's Flash. And it is the comedy's really good. Like, every joke almost landed for me. Like, I think there's only a couple jokes that didn't land for me, but all of it landed. All of the jokes landed for me. And this movie is extremely funny. You will be laughing your head off. Now the actors. Michael Keaton back as Batman. He's just as pleasant as always. Now, I'll get more on him in the I didn't like section, but Michael Keaton does a really pleasant role at becoming Batman again. His last time playing Batman, I thought he did it really well. And then Supergirl in this movie, I want her to be Supergirl in the reboot of the DCEU. Well, now it's DCU, but yeah, I thought she did really well as well. I want her to continue playing the role. And then Ezra Miller, most of you guys probably didn't want to watch this movie because he was in it. I didn't really necessarily read the articles that were being posted about him. I don't really want to, but I always liked Ezra Miller as the Flash, and this movie just makes him come more to life and makes you like him more. But I understand how most of you do not want to, watch the movie Ezra Miller was in. Like I said, I don't really know what he did, so I can't really talk about it. But I understand if you guys don't. I thought he did amazing, and I love his character of the Flash even more. And then Ben Affleck is in the trailer. He's barely in the movie at all. But what he is in this movie, I want more of Ben Affleck. I think Ben Affleck is my favorite Batman adaptation. Well, that was before this movie came out. But I really do enjoy Ben Affleck as Batman. I do wish he returns in the new DCU, but he's not, which is disappointing. But I did really enjoy his Batman. And this movie makes you care about Ben Affleck's Batman more. Let's talk about what I didn't like about this film. So what I didn't like is, let's get back to Michael Keaton. They could have easily made this movie without Michael Keaton in there. He is not important to the story. They just added him in for fan service. Don't get me wrong, it is fun to see him back, but he does not need to be in the story. They can easily work around the story without Michael Keaton in here. They could have done what Flashpoint did and had that Batman be Bruce's father, but they didn't, and they added Michael Keaton in. Don't get me wrong, like I said, he is amazing as the role, but he does not really need to be in the story. But I am glad we got to see Michael Keaton back as Batman. And some of you guys might be wondering, the cringy lines and stuff. I mean, you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts line. In the trailer, it felt out of place. In the movie, I felt like it was in the perfect spot. Now, when Now when Michael Keaton says, "I'm Batman," that was way out of place. Like, they know he was Batman. He just randomly goes, "I'm Batman." So that felt out of place. But overall, Michael Keaton was still good to see Michael Keaton back as Batman. It's just, he didn't really need to be in the story. And I wish they made it that he had to be in the story. Now let's talk about the runtime. This movie is around 2 hours and 20 minutes. And I can feel that. I felt the runtime. I wanted this movie to go by a fast, but I felt the runtime. And there's not much they could have done to shorten it as well. They probably could have shortened some dialogue, but overall they had to keep the same runtime. So the movie just, it was long, and there's nothing they could have done about that because every scene is important. It goes from this step to this step to this step to this step. There's no breaks in between. There's from story. There's no filler in here whatsoever. So there's not much you could have done about that, but do keep in mind you do feel the runtime for this movie. And another thing, I am going to forget this movie in like a week or two. This movie is just, sadly, wasn't as good as I was hoping it to be. So, if you guys haven't seen it yet, lower your expectations down. This movie is not as good as everyone's making it seem. Like, when I first saw the Rotten Tomatoes score, I'm like, really? Only 70% of people recommend this movie? I thought the early showings at Comic-Con were saying, like, it's the best thing ever, but only a 70%. And after watching the movie, I can say, yep, I can see why only 70% of critics recommend this movie. It's not that memorable. Like, though it is one of the better DC EU movies, but it's just not, like, as good as everyone was hoping. So, lower your expectations down, like, a little bit, but not too far down. If you can, lower it super, like, low, and then go into this movie if you can, but I think you only need to lower it just a little bit. But do keep in mind, it is not as good as everyone's saying it is. And if you can, try to avoid spoilers as much as possible. Now, if you do collect Funko Pops and have seen the Funko Pops characters of the Flash movie, there's 2 on the back that, like, I wouldn't say they're, like, major characters, but they weren't in the trailers at all, and I have no idea why Funko put them as a character that weren't revealed in the trailer. So if you don't want to get spoiled, do not look at the Funko Pops of the Flash movie, because they did spoil 2 characters that were cameos, but there is still way more cameos in here, so try not to get spoiled for those as well. But anyways, before I give you guys my final thoughts, make sure you like and subscribe, and let me know your thoughts down below. And overall, The Flash is not as good as everyone's making it seem. The pacing is quite a while. I will be forgetting this movie. Michael Keaton's not as important as I wanted him to be, but the story is really good. Like, the Flashpoint story, how can you not enjoy that story? And then, all the actors are really good. Like, Ezra Miller made me like his Flash even more. And this comedy is really good. The action is also really good. Some reviews say the CGI is not that good at one part where it's just this time around him. It kind of looks like the Polar Express animation, and I think it's meant to look like that. There is no way that they didn't finish the CGI in this, but it has to look like that, and I enjoyed that. But yeah, overall, I wanted to like The Flash more, but I just didn't like it as much as I was hoping. But it is still a good movie. It will make you cry and laugh, and you will have a good time at the movie theater. Overall, I still do recommend this movie, but out of 10, I have to give it a 7.5 out of 10. It's not as good as I was hoping it to be. Maybe on rewatch, I will like it even more. I can't believe I like a Transformers film more than The Flash. But there is also a post-credit scene, so there's only one. It's at the very end. I do recommend staying for it. It's like a minute long, but I mean, like, it's not that important, but I still do recommend watching it. But anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys all next time. Goodbye.